The stars shimmered against the endless black as the Earth vessel horizon drifted toward the neutral zone near Proxima Centauri. Captain Alan Pierce stood by the main viewport, his weathered face reflecting in the reinforced glass. 20 years of space travel had taught him caution, but today's mission required something more: diplomacy. Captain, the Zephyrian fleet has arrived. 5 vessels, Formation Delta. First Officer Ryan Kelly's voice broke the silence on the bridge. Alan nodded. Right on time, open communications when they're in range. The Zephyrians had a reputation across the galaxy. Tall, graceful beings with skin that shifted colors like living rainbows. Their technology was centuries beyond Earth's, and their civilization had never known war. This made them both fascinating and dangerous. They had no concept of violence, which meant they couldn't recognize its warning signs. "Sir, we're receiving transmission from the lead Zephyrian ship," Communications Officer Olivia Grant announced. Her fingers moved quickly across the console. "Visual coming through now." The view screen flickered, revealing a being that seemed more light than matter. The Zephyrian commander's skin pulsed with soft blue and green patterns, indicating what intelligence suggested was curiosity and peaceful intent. "Greetings, Horizon Vessel. We are pleased to make formal contact with your species." The translation came through clearly, though the Zephyrian's mouth didn't move. They communicated through color shifts and telepathy among their own kind. Alan stepped forward. "Commander, I'm Captain Alan Pierce. On behalf of Earth and humanity, we welcome this opportunity for cultural exchange." What followed was the carefully choreographed dance of first contact. The Zephyrians asked about human customs, while Alan's crew inquired about Zephyrian technology. Hours passed in seemingly productive conversation. Chief Science Officer Susan Miller was particularly excited. A xenobiologist with 3 decades of research, this meeting represented her life's work. "Captain, with your permission, I'd like to show them our botanical samples. Plants might be a safe starting point for biological comparison." Alan considered this. The first contact protocol advised minimal biological exchange, but plants seemed harmless enough. "Approved, but keep it basic. Let's not overwhelm our new friends." Susan gathered her samples and transferred to the Zephyrian vessel alongside a small security team. The exchange began well. The Zephyrians showed great interest in Earth's plant life, their skin flashing with patterns of yellow and white that their translator explained meant profound scientific curiosity. Then everything went wrong. Susan was explaining photosynthesis when she removed a small flowering plant from its container. Unknown to the humans, the plant released pollen that triggered an immediate and severe allergic reaction in Zephyrians. The commander's aide collapsed, skin flaring bright red before fading to a dull gray. The security team, seeing the Zephyrians' distress, moved to help. The other Zephyrians, having no concept of death or violence, misinterpreted this movement as aggression. Their skin flashed warning colors, and in the confusion, energy weapons were drawn. Susan stepped between the groups, hands raised. "No, wait, this is a misunderstanding." The flash of energy struck her directly in the chest. She fell without a sound. Chaos erupted. The security team retreated with Susan's body, barely making it back to their shuttle. As they fled to the horizon, the Zephyrians sent confusing messages, not threats but questions. They didn't understand what had happened or why the humans were retreating so hastily. "Get us out of here, maximum burn," Alan ordered when the shuttle docked. His voice was steady, but those who knew him saw the cold fury in his eyes. "Sir, the Zephyrians are hailing us," Olivia reported. "They're asking why we're leaving. I think they don't understand that they killed Susan." Alan took a deep breath. "Open a channel." The Zephyrian commander appeared on screen again, skin now pulsing with purple and yellow patterns. The translator struggled to interpret. Confusion. Concern. Request explanation for rapid departure. Alan stepped close to the screen. "You killed one of our people, a scientist who came in peace." The Zephyrian's colors shifted rapidly. Unknown concept killed. Human Susan Miller showed biological reaction, then ceased movement. "This is temporary state?" It hit Alan then. The true danger of the Zephyrians wasn't malice, but ignorance. Species that had never experienced death couldn't comprehend what they had done. Commander, listen carefully. What happened cannot be undone. Susan Miller is gone forever. Your actions ended her existence. Among humans, this is the gravest offense possible. The Zephyrians' colors dimmed slightly. This concept is difficult. If permanent cessation has occurred, what reparation is required by human custom? Alan felt the eyes of his entire bridge crew upon him. The first contact protocol was clear. In case of hostile action resulting in human casualties, immediate withdrawal and implementation of Defense Protocol 7 was mandatory. Not revenge, preparation. There will be no reparation, Alan said firmly. But remember this moment. You don't understand what you've started. He signaled Olivia to cut the transmission. Set course for Earth, maximum speed, and encrypt a message. To command First Contact Protocol 7. Ryan approached once the orders were being carried out. Sir, do you think they understood any of that? They don't even have a concept of death. Alan watched as the Zephyrian vessels grew smaller on the view screen. No, they didn't understand. And that's what makes them dangerous. They're powerful, advanced, and completely unable to comprehend the consequences of their actions. What will Earth do now? Ryan asked. What we've always done, Alan said quietly. Prepare for the worst while hoping for the best. Defense Protocol 7 means we won't seek revenge, nor will we attempt further contact. We'll simply watch, and we'll get ready. In the medical bay, Dr. Nathan Wells pulled the sheet over Susan's face. 20 years as a space physician, and he still wasn't used to losing people, especially not like this. Not during what should have been a peaceful exchange. The Horizon's engines hummed as the ship accelerated away from Proxima Centauri. In the quiet of his quarters, Alan looked at the stars rushing past and felt the familiar weight of command. He had met aliens who could manipulate gravity, who could travel between dimensions, who could terraform worlds in days. But he had never before met a species that couldn't understand death. Somehow, that seemed the most alien thing of all. Back on their vessel, the Zephyrian commander reported to their High Council through the telepathic network that spanned their territories. The humans appeared physically weak and technologically inferior, yet their final communication contained emotional patterns that the translator couldn't fully decode. They exhibit strange behavioral responses, the commander transmitted. They retreat rather than seek understanding. They speak of concepts our language has no words for. Assessment. Unpredictable potential. The High Council acknowledged the report and classified humans as a species of interest but minimal concern. After all, their ships were few and their weapons primitive. It would be 5 years before they realized how wrong they were. 5 years passed since the incident near Proxima Centauri. The Zephyrians had expanded their territory across 3 new star systems, convinced that humans were isolationists who posed no real threat. Their encounters with other species always mentioned the strange humans who retreated after a simple misunderstanding. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council on Nexus Prime buzzed with activity. 17 different species gathered for the quarterly assembly, their various forms creating a living mosaic of galactic diversity. Today was different. Today, humans were coming. Ambassador Lily Blackwood stepped off the Earth shuttle with perfect posture. Her silver-streaked black hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her blue diplomatic uniform bore only a small Earth emblem. Behind her walked 4 other humans, 2 security officers, her assistant, and Dr. Jack Daniels, a xenobiologist whose quiet demeanor masked a brilliant mind. Welcome to Nexus Prime, Ambassador Blackwood, greeted Tulrek, the Arthosian representative whose insect-like features clicked slightly when he spoke. The Council has awaited Earth's petition for membership with great interest. Lily smiled diplomatically. Thank you for the welcome. Earth appreciates the opportunity to join the galactic community. As the human delegation moved toward the Council, Chambers Jack Daniels lingered behind, his eyes carefully observing every species they passed. His fingers occasionally tapped on his datapad, recording observations that seemed innocent enough. Height, approximate weight, visible respiratory structures. Clathor, the draconian representative, watched the humans with narrowed eyes. His species had evolved from apex predators into philosophers and diplomats over millennia, but they still recognized predatory behavior when they saw it. The humans moved too carefully, observed too much, said too little. "They do not move like diplomats," Clathor whispered to his aide. "Look at how they position themselves, always with clear sightlines to exits, never with their backs to open spaces. Perhaps they are simply cautious in an unfamiliar environment," his aide suggested. "Perhaps," Clathor replied, unconvinced. "Or perhaps they are preparing for something we do not yet understand." The formal petition began in the Great Chamber. 17 council members seated in a semicircle faced the human delegation. Ambassador Lily stood alone at the speaker's podium, her voice clear and measured. "Humanity thanks the Galactic Council for considering our petition for membership. Earth seeks peaceful cooperation and cultural exchange with all sentient species." What followed surprised many council members. Rather than an ambitious proposal for technological trading or military alliances, Lily presented the most minimal terms of any species seeking membership in 50 years. Earth requested basic trade agreements, scientific exchange programs with strict limitations and recognition of human territorial boundaries. "Is this all?" asked Mentor Vex, the Tellurian representative, his gelatinous form rippling with confusion. "Most species seek protection or technology when joining the Council." "Earth's needs are simple," Lily replied with a slight smile. "We value our independence and privacy. We offer friendship, not dependence." While the formal proceedings continued, Jack Daniels sat quietly in the observer section, studying each council member. His datapad contained growing files on each species represented, not just basic biological information, but detailed notes on apparent physical weaknesses, response times, and threat assessments. During the midday recess, an Arthosian scientist approached Jack, mandibles clicking with curiosity. "Dr. Daniels, I understand you're a xenobiologist. I'd be interested in exchanging research notes." Jack smiled politely. "Of course, though I should warn you, human research is probably far behind yours. We've only been spacefaring for a relatively short time. Yet your ships are remarkably advanced for such a young species," the Arthosian noted. "Our intelligence reports suggest your military presence in space is quite limited, however. Does this not concern Earth, with so many unknown species in the galaxy?" Jack looked up from his datapad, his expression neutral. "We don't need ships to defend ourselves, we have contingencies." The Arthosian's antennae twitched slightly. "Contingencies?" "Just a figure of speech," Jack said, returning to his notes. "Earth simply prioritizes differently than some civilizations." By day's end, the Council had approved Earth's petition for membership by a vote of 15-2. Only the Draconians and the Mavolians had voted against, citing insufficient information about human intentions. As the human delegation prepared to depart, Clathor approached Lily in the docking bay. The tall, scaled Draconian towered over her, but Lily showed no sign of intimidation. "Ambassador Blackwood, I must speak plainly," Clathor said, his voice a low rumble. "My species has survived for 50,000 years because we recognize threats before they materialize. Why does Earth truly seek Council membership when you ask for so little in return?" Lily looked up at him, her eyes steady. "Not all species have the same needs or goals, Representative Clathor." "Then what does humanity want?" he pressed. "Just to be left alone," Lily replied simply. Clathor's scales shifted slightly, a sign of unease in his species. "No one crosses the void between stars to be left alone, Ambassador." Lily's smile never wavered. "Then perhaps you don't understand humans as well as you think." She nodded politely and boarded the Earth shuttle. As the shuttle departed, Jack Daniels transmitted a secured data package to Earth Command. It contained detailed files on all 17 Council species, focusing particularly on their military capabilities, biological vulnerabilities, and political pressure points. The transmission was hidden within standard departure protocols, undetectable, to even the advanced sensors of Nexus Prime. Back in the council chambers, Clathor spoke urgently to his fellow representatives. The humans are hiding something. They observe too carefully. They ask too little. They reveal nothing of consequence. Perhaps they are simply cautious, suggested Tolrek. Their only previous contact with non-Earth species ended with the death of one of their scientists. No, Clathor insisted. This is more than caution. The way that scientist, Daniels, watched us all. They're cataloging us, assessing us. For what purpose? Asked Mentor Vex. That, said Clathor, is what troubles me most. On the journey back to Earth, Lily reviewed the mission outcomes with her team. Phase 1 complete. Minimal engagement. Established. Dr. Daniels, was your data collection successful? Jack nodded. Complete biological and technological profiles on all council species. Defense Command will be pleased. He paused. The Draconians are suspicious. They're evolutionary. History makes them more attuned to predatory behavior patterns. Let them be suspicious, Lily replied calmly. They have no proof of anything beyond standard diplomatic relations. Earth has 2 years before the next required council meeting. 2 years to prepare our contingencies. As the Earth shuttle disappeared into the darkness of space, none of the council members could have guessed that humanity's quiet entry into galactic politics was precisely calculated. None could have known that Earth already had operatives living among 5 different council species, learning languages, studying weaknesses, preparing for all possibilities. None except perhaps Clathor, who watched the stars long after the human shuttle had gone, feeling the ancient instincts of his predator ancestors stirring in warning. 2 years passed since Earth joined the Galactic Council. Humans remained a quiet presence in galactic politics, attending meetings but rarely speaking. They established small trading outposts near council space, but kept their home solar system largely closed to visitors. Many species began to dismiss the warnings about humans, seeing them as simply private and cautious rather than threatening. The Zephyrians grew bolder during this time. Their expansion continued unchecked, and they began to view themselves as a leading power in the galaxy. Their advanced technology and growing territory made them confident, perhaps too confident. Supreme Commander Thalo of the Zephyrian fleet stood on the bridge of his flagship, skin pulsing with proud blues and greens, as he addressed his captains. Our surveys show rich mineral deposits on the small moon the humans call Europa. It orbits the gas giant in their home system. Supreme Commander, the humans have not opened their system to mining rights. His second-in-command reminded him, colors shifting to cautious purple. They have made no formal claim to their outer moons, Thalo replied. And our analysis shows their technology is far behind ours. They have only a small fleet of primitive ships. This operation will establish our rightful place in the galactic order. The Zephyrian High Council approved the mission with little debate. Their species had never known war, and they viewed the acquisition of resources as a practical matter rather than a potential conflict. 5 battlecruisers would escort 3 colony ships to Jupiter's moon Europa to establish a mining operation. The Zephyrian fleet entered the Sol system with confidence, broadcasting their intentions openly as they approached Jupiter. This is a peaceful mining expedition to an unclaimed world, they announced on all frequencies. We seek only to harvest resources for the benefit of all spacefaring species. Earth remained silent as the alien ships passed Mars. No vessels moved to intercept them. No warnings came from the small human outposts on the Red Planet. The Zephyrians interpreted this as acceptance or perhaps fear. As the fleet approached Jupiter's orbit, a single Earth vessel appeared from behind one of the gas giant's other moons. It was small compared to the Zephyrian ships, clearly a research vessel rather than a warship. Zephyrian fleet, this is Colonel Steve Warren of the Earth vessel Endeavor, came the transmission. The human's voice was calm, almost emotionless. You are entering restricted space without authorization. You have 24 hours to leave the Sol system. Supreme Commander Thalo's skin flashed with amusement, a bright yellow pattern that rippled across his body. A single research vessel wishes to challenge 5 battle cruisers? The humans show either great courage or great foolishness. He opened a channel to respond. Earth vessel, we claim mining rights to the unclaimed moon. Europa under Galactic Council open resource protocols. Your single ship cannot enforce any territorial claim over an unused natural satellite. There was a brief pause before Colonel Warren responded. This is not a negotiation. This is not a request. You have 24 hours to leave. The countdown has begun. Thallo's skin darkened with what his species recognized as determination. He opened a broadcast to all ships in the system and beyond, ensuring the message would reach the Galactic Council. The time for humans to understand their place in the galaxy has come. We will establish our mining colony as planned. Any interference will be met with appropriate response. For 23 hours, nothing happened. The Zephyrian fleet moved into position around Europa, and landing craft began preparations for descent. Thallo watched from his command center, satisfied that the humans had accepted reality. In the 24th hour, Colonel Warren's voice came again. Your time is up. You were warned. Seconds later, devices that had lain dormant throughout the Sol system for decades activated simultaneously. They had been placed on asteroids, moons, and in orbit around planets long before any alien species made contact with Earth. The planetary defense system that no galactic race knew existed came to life. On the Endeavor, Steve Warren watched his monitor as the automated system engaged. He felt no pleasure, no anger, only the calm certainty that came with following protocols established long ago for exactly this scenario. The first Zephyrian ship lost engine power without warning. Its artificial gravity flickered and died. The second ship found its communication systems suddenly scrambled, unable to send or receive any signals. The third ship's navigation systems failed, sending it spinning slowly off course. None of the ships were destroyed. No weapons had directly fired upon them. Instead, precisely targeted electromagnetic pulses and specialized disruptor fields had disabled specific systems on each vessel, targeting known weaknesses in Zephyrian technology. What is happening? Supreme Commander Thallo demanded, his skin flashing the bright red of alarm. How are they doing this? Where are their weapons? His officers had no answers. Their sensors detected no energy weapons, no approaching missiles. Just precisely calibrated disruption fields that somehow knew exactly where to strike and how. The remaining 2 battle cruisers raised shields and prepared their weapons. Before they could fire, a new message came from the Endeavor. Your ships have not been destroyed. Your crews are unharmed. Power and life support remain functional. This is a demonstration, not an attack. Colonel Warren's voice remained as calm as before. Had we wished to destroy your fleet, we could have. Leave now. There will be no second demonstration. From Earth came no diplomatic messages, no threats, no negotiations. Only silence and the evidence of a defensive capability far beyond what any species believed humans possessed. Thallo ordered an immediate retreat. As his damaged fleet limped away from Jupiter, he transmitted one question to the Endeavor. How long have you had these defenses? Longer than you've known we existed, came the simple reply. News of the incident spread quickly through the Galactic Council. The Zephyrians formally protested, claiming unprovoked aggression, but their complaints gained little traction when it became clear they had entered Earth's home system without permission. What troubled the Council most was not the confrontation itself, but the implications. Humans had planetary defense capabilities that could have destroyed the entire Zephyrian fleet, but chose precision and restraint instead. This calculated response frightened the Council members more than outright aggression would have. In a closed session of the Council's Security Committee, Clathor of the Draconians addressed his colleagues gravely. Now we begin to understand. The humans do not build large fleets because they do not need them. They prepare in ways we do not see, quietly, placing their pieces across the board before anyone knows the game has begun. What do you suggest we do? Asked Tolrek of the Arthosians. Learn from them, Clathor replied. The humans demonstrated not just advanced technology today, but restraint. They could have destroyed those ships but chose not to. That speaks to a strategic mind that thinks beyond simple victory or defeat. On Earth, in the underground command center of global defense, Admiral Ben Ramirez received Colonel Warren's report with a nod. Activation of the Jupiter defense grid has been confirmed successful. All systems performed within expected parameters. What happens next, sir? Warren asked through the secure channel. That depends on them, Ramirez replied. Defense Protocol 7 remains in effect. We watch, we wait, and we continue to prepare for all possibilities. Across the stars, alien civilizations began to reconsider their understanding of humanity. What other defenses might lie hidden? What other capabilities had the quiet, seemingly primitive humans concealed? And most importantly, what would happen if humans ever decided to do more than just defend? The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with tension 1 month after the Europa incident. Representatives from 17 species argued loudly about how to respond to the revelation of Earth's hidden defenses. The Arthosians, led by Tolrek, demanded immediate sanctions against humanity for concealing military capabilities. This deception threatens the very foundation of our alliance, Tolrek insisted, his insect-like mandibles clicking rapidly. How can we trust a species that hides its true power? Ambassador Lily Blackwood sat quietly as the accusations flew around the chamber. She had expected this reaction. It was, after all, part of the plan. Clathor of the Draconians rose to speak. Unlike the others, his voice remained calm and measured. Before we cast judgment, perhaps we should ask the humans to explain themselves. Not their ambassador, who speaks only diplomatic words, but someone who can tell us the truth about their defensive capabilities. Eyes turned to Lily, who nodded once. Earth will provide such a representative. We have nothing to hide. 3 days later, the council reconvened. The chamber fell silent as Fleet Admiral Diane Martinez entered. Unlike Lily's diplomatic blues, Diane wore the dark gray uniform of Earth Defense Command. Her posture was military perfect, her expression neutral but confident. Admiral Martinez, began the council leader, a Tellurian named Vex Ordos. You have been asked here to explain why Earth concealed planetary defenses that clearly violated the spirit, if not the letter, of our membership agreement. Diane looked around the chamber, meeting each alien gaze directly. With respect, Council Leader, Earth concealed nothing. We were never asked about our defensive capabilities, and we volunteered no information. This is not deception. This is survival. She tapped a control on her wrist device, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. What I am about to share has never been revealed to any non-Earth species. The hologram showed Earth, but not as the council members knew. This Earth was scarred by massive impact craters. Cities lay in ruins. Oceans were tainted dark with pollution or radiation. This is not Earth as it exists, Diane explained. These are simulations our scientists and military strategists have run for centuries. Long before we knew other intelligent life existed, humanity has spent its entire history preparing for threats. First from ourselves, then from the unknown, the Isao. Images shifted, showing conflict after conflict throughout human history. Humans aren't feared for our technology or our ships. We're feared because of what we've survived. Ourselves. Diane's voice remained steady as horrific scenes of human warfare throughout history played out before the stunned council. While other species evolved toward cooperation after developing advanced technology, humans developed advanced technology specifically to better compete against each other. Our entire evolutionary and cultural history has been shaped by conflict and the drive to survive it. Tolrek's antennae quivered with distress. You speak as if this history of violence is something to be proud of. Not proud, Diane corrected. Shaped by. There is a difference. We don't want conflict. We want security. Every defensive measure we've developed comes from a simple truth. Those who fail to prepare for threats don't survive to regret their mistake. She changed the display again, showing a complex network of defensive systems throughout Earth's solar system. We don't want your territories. We don't need your resources. What we have always needed is to ensure our survival against any threat. The council chamber remained silent as the implications sank in. Diane continued, her voice still calm but now edged with steel. You see our small fleet and think we are weak. We see potential threats and prepare a dozen different ways to neutralize them before they materialize. With another gesture, she revealed more. Embedded agents throughout key systems in council space. Defensive technologies adapted specifically for each potential hostile species. Communication networks that could continue functioning even if Earth itself were destroyed. Your sanctioning body seems particularly concerned about one detail, Diane said, focusing on Tolrek. The fact that these preparations began before first contact with any alien species. Yes, humanity had been preparing for existential threats from the stars long before confirming intelligent life existed beyond Earth. Tolrek's compound eyes seemed to widen. You prepared for us before you knew we existed? We prepared for all possibilities, Diane corrected. Hostile alien life was merely one of thousands of scenarios our defense planners considered. When the Zephyrians killed our scientist 5 years ago, we didn't seek revenge. We simply activated contingencies, already in place. Clothor leaned forward, his scaled face impossible for humans to read. And if the Council were to view humanity as a threat? Diane met his gaze unflinchingly. Then you would discover that what happened at Europa was the smallest fraction of our defensive capabilities. She paused. But you would also find that humans have no interest in aggression. Our history taught us that winners of conflicts often lose as much as those who are defeated. She shut down the holographic display. Humanity seeks only to exist securely. We value life. All life. This is why the Zephyrian ships were disabled, not destroyed. This is why we joined this council. Not to deceive you, but to create a basis for understanding. The council chamber remained silent long after Diane finished speaking. Finally, Vex Ordos cleared his throat. Admiral, this has been illuminating. The council will need time to discuss these revelations. Take all the time you need, Diane replied. Earth has waited thousands of years to find other intelligent life. We can wait a little longer for understanding. As Diane left the chamber, silence followed her. The representatives of 17 different species looked at each other with new awareness. They had believed humans were newcomers to the galactic community, primitive, limited, and naive. Now they understood that humans had been preparing for this moment for their entire history. Back on her ship, Diane met with Ambassador Lily. How do you think they took it? Diane asked. Exactly as expected, Lily replied with a small smile. Fear first, then curiosity, then reassessment. Claythor already understood. The others will follow. And the next phase? Also proceeding as planned. The Arthosians have already sent a private request for medical assistance with their colony plague. They specifically asked for human doctors, not council medical teams. Diane nodded. So they fear us, but they're beginning to see value in how we think. Precisely, Lily said. They're starting to understand that the same mindset that makes us dangerous, our constant preparation for worst-case scenarios, also makes us uniquely qualified to help when those scenarios come to pass. As their ship left Nexus Prime, news of Admiral Martinez's presentation spread quickly across the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humans as a minor power now scrambled to reassess. Intelligence agencies that had paid little attention to Earth suddenly found their archives being searched by nervous leaders. And on a dozen worlds, hidden human observers continued their quiet work, watching and waiting, following protocols, established long before first contact. Not as invaders or conquerors, but as guardians preparing for all possible futures in a dangerous universe. 3 months after Admiral Martinez's presentation to the Galactic Council, something unexpected happened. Rather than isolating humanity, many species began seeking closer ties with Earth. The revelation of human nature, their constant preparation for disaster while working toward peace, had changed how they were perceived. Admiral Alan Pierce, once captain of the Horizon during the first Zephyrian encounter, stood on the bridge of the medical ship Hope. 5 years had passed since he watched Susan Miller die. Now he commanded a very different mission. "Admiral, we're approaching the Arthosian home system," his first officer reported. "Their orbital control is requesting identification. Send our diplomatic codes and inform them this is a humanitarian mission," Alan replied. The Hope was the largest medical vessel in Earth's fleet. On board were 300 doctors, researchers, and support staff led by Dr. Nicole Hayes. They carried vaccines and treatments for a plague that had devastated Arthosian colonies for the past year. Dr. Hayes joined Alan on the bridge, her face serious but determined. "The latest reports are worse than we expected. Over 2 million infected on the main colony world, and the disease has mutated again." Alan nodded. "Can your team handle it?" "Yes," Nicole said with quiet confidence. "The vaccine we developed should work against all known variations. We've run simulations for over 50 possible mutations. What the Arthosians didn't know, what no one outside Earth's highest levels knew, was that the vaccine had been developed years before the Arthosian plague was even known to humans. It was part of a contingency plan for potential biological warfare, one of thousands of scenarios Earth had prepared for. As the Hope entered orbit around Artheos Prime, Alan received a transmission from Tolrek, who had been their fiercest critic in the Council. "Admiral Pierce, your assistance is appreciated." The Arthosians' mandibles clicked with what humans had learned was their expression of humility. "Our best medical minds have failed to stop this plague. Many believed your kind would refuse to help us after our position against Earth in the Council." "Humans don't abandon others in crisis, regardless of politics," Alan replied simply. Over the next few weeks, human medical teams spread across Arthosian worlds. They worked tirelessly, adapting their treatments as the plague evolved, saving millions of lives. The Arthosians watched in amazement as the humans seemed to anticipate each new mutation before it occurred. "How did you prepare for a disease you had never encountered before coming here?" an Arthosian medical director asked Nicole. She simply replied, "We prepare for everything." Across the galaxy, a similar pattern emerged. The Draconians, impressed by humanity's strategic thinking, proposed a joint defense initiative. The Tellurians requested human assistance with atmospheric stabilization on their colony worlds. Even the Mavolians, who had voted against Earth, joining the Council, sought human expertise in predicting and mitigating natural disasters. Only the Zephyrians maintained their distance, still unsettled by the Europa incident and what it revealed about human capabilities. Yet they watched carefully, their understanding slowly evolving. 6 months after the Arthosian mission began, representatives from all Council species gathered on Nexus Prime for an emergency session. The topic: a massive solar flare detected, heading toward a densely populated sector, containing colonies from 5 different species. "The flare will hit Sector 7 in approximately 48 hours, the Tellurian scientist explained. "Evacuation is impossible on such short notice." As panic spread through the chamber, Earth's representative stood. Not Ambassador Lilly this time, but Frank Johnson, an elderly man who served as a special advisor to Earth's government. His weathered face and simple gray clothing made him seem out of place among the ornately dressed aliens. "If I may," Frank said, his voice surprisingly strong for his apparent age. "Earth has experience with solar radiation protection. We can help." "What can humans possibly do against a stellar event of this magnitude?" demanded a Mavolian representative. Frank smiled slightly. "We've been preparing for this type of disaster since before we left our atmosphere. If the Council approves, we have shield generator technology that can be deployed within 24 hours. The chamber erupted in disbelief. Clathor of the Draconians raised a clawed hand for silence. "You have shield technology capable of protecting entire planets from solar radiation? And you never mentioned this capability?" "You never asked," Frank replied simply. "And until now, there was no need." With no other options, the Council approved Earth's assistance. Within hours, human ships departed for the threatened sector, carrying shield generators designed decades earlier for exactly this scenario. When the solar flare hit, not a single life was lost. 5 planets inhabited by different species were protected by human technology that none of them had known existed until their need was dire. In the aftermath, a young Zephyrian diplomat named Elio approached Frank as he prepared to return to Earth. Elio's skin shifted through curious blues and greens. "I must ask you something," Elio said. "My people still struggle to understand humans. Why did your kind dedicate so much of your development to preparing for the worst rather than hoping for the best?" Frank considered the question carefully. "Hope isn't a strategy. Where we come from, survival belongs to those who plan for disaster while working for peace. The galaxy fears us not because we're conquerors, but because we're survivors. And now perhaps so are you." Elio's colors shifted to a thoughtful purple. "The incident with your scientist, Susan Miller. We still don't fully understand what happened." "I know," Frank said gently. "That's why we've been patient. Understanding takes time." As Frank boarded his shuttle, Elio watched with new comprehension. The Zephyrians had always believed preparation indicated aggression, that seeing threats where none existed was a sign of a flawed mind. Now they began to understand that humanity's constant vigilance wasn't paranoia, it was wisdom born from harsh experience. News of the successful protection against the solar flare spread rapidly across Council space. Species that had once viewed humans with suspicion now saw them differently. The very traits that made humans dangerous, their preparation for worst-case scenarios, also made them the most valuable allies when those scenarios came to pass. In Earth's command center, Ambassador Lilly met with Admiral Diane Martinez and the other architects of humanity's careful emergence onto the galactic stage. "Phase 3 is complete," Lilly reported. "We've demonstrated our value as allies without revealing the full extent of our capabilities." "And the Zephyrians?" Diane asked, beginning to understand. "They've requested a cultural exchange program, small steps but progress." Admiral Alan Pierce joined them via secure transmission from the Hope, still orbiting Artheos Prime. "The Arthosians are making a formal declaration of alliance with Earth at the next council meeting. The Draconians will likely follow." Diane nodded, satisfied. "Then we've achieved our goal. Not domination, not isolation, but mutual respect based on understanding." As stars shimmered in the viewports of ships and stations across the galaxy, the perception of humanity continued to evolve. They weren't conquerors seeking territory or resources. They weren't naive newcomers to be manipulated or dismissed. They were survivors who had turned their difficult history into a strength, and finally, the aliens understood why humans were feared across the stars. Not for what they might do, but for what they had always done. Prepare for the worst, while building toward the best, ready for anything the universe might throw at them.